Drew Brees definitely came across as ignorant. It was shockingly so how tone deaf that he appeared to be, considering his history, the kind of things that he's done for the community in New Orleans post Hurricane Katrina and beyond, his philanthropic efforts throughout the years. I was quite surprised, shocked at how tone deaf that he was. It was incredibly alarming, very, very disappointing. I definitely think it justified the reaction that he got from his teammates, in particular Malcolm Jenkins. I also want to point out what Richard Sherman said when he talked about him being clearly lost. All of them was right. Ed Reed, I don't agree with calling him names because he called them a sucker and all of that stuff. I didn't think that was necessary, but I understood Ed Reed's point in terms of his frustration because you expected more from Drew Brees and you didn't get it. But having said all of that, I got news for y'all. This uproar that's been going on nationwide where everybody's going up, here's what I think everybody's missing. This is a victory for communication. I actually don't mind that this happened because Drew Brees and his actions yesterday were emblematic of a level of tone deafness or, stripping the veil of white privilege that we've been lamenting for quite some time. And guess what? This is a win for communication. Because the reality is that if you didn't have folks like that out there revealing what they truly, truly feel, then there would still be a plethora of people outside of the black community all over the place asking, what y'all upset about? What's the problem? We said that we agree with you. We said that this is wrong. What's the protesting for? What's that about? They would be asking those questions. You don't get to do that now because just a semblance of what's taking place out there was revealed by Drew Brees yesterday. So when he talks about action, let's take this into consideration. If all we cared about was the emotion, right, then we're satisfied with the 4 officers being arrested. One charged with second-degree murder, the others receiving the charges that they received. We're satisfied with that under that premise, but we're not satisfied. We want their asses convicted. Period. Not only do we want them convicted, we want federal legislation calling for for brutality on a part of some police officers against unarmed black men to be designated as a federal hate crime. We want these kind of things. We don't want lip service. We don't want you to hug us. We don't want to lock arms with you and sing kumbaya with one another, everybody acting like tomorrow is going to be a greater day just because we feel a little bit better. We want action. And so what happens is that when you see something like this transpire, it lends itself towards illuminating and crystallizing the need for action. What happened in this case already within 6 days? It's not just that the officers have been arrested. It's not just that they're going to be prosecuted. It's that a black man who's a former Democratic representative, who's now the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, was handed the case because you had people behind the scenes who were calling for that. You're going to hear more about federal legislation needing to be implemented. You're going to hear names like Breonna Taylor. You're going to be reminded of Eric Garner. You're going to be reminded of Sean Bell. The list goes on and on. Walter Scott and other guys like that. You're going to hear these names reverberating in an effort to provoke and ultimately promote and implement federal legislation. That's the kind of action that we're talking about. And if you didn't have anybody revealing the kind of stuff that Drew Brees revealed yesterday, it wouldn't get to that. Now, as an aside, before I hand this to you, Max, I will say this about Drew Brees. I am shocked, disappointed, in a very heartfelt way because I expected better from him. But in fairness to him, we must remember to remind the audience, he was never asked. Even though he's tone deaf and he messed up big time, he wasn't being asked about the protest and George Floyd. He was being asked about the anthem. I did not know that until a few minutes ago. He was asked a question because I was wondering, Max and Dominique, how the hell do you get to the national anthem and kneeling and protesting off of the George Floyd? How you get to the national anthem? Where did that come from? And then I learned he was asked directly about kneeling and the national anthem by that person at Yahoo Finance. Yeah, that's how it came up, and that's why he broached the subject. It's just important to point out he was asked directly about that.
The kneeling was a response, Colin Kaepernick's response to police brutality, to law enforcement's interactions with communities of color. That was the point. And so I want to quote something from Drew Brees for you, because everyone keeps saying how surprised they are. That he, quote, wholeheartedly disagrees with sitting for the national anthem. That quote is from 2016. Drew Brees said the exact same thing in 2016, and that reflected the mainstream point of view 4 long years ago. He's not saying anything new, and if you listen and contextualize his entire comments, he's not commenting, as Dominique points out, maybe he needs to, about the content of the protest itself. He's saying he disagrees with sitting for the anthem. Nothing new from 4 years ago when it was uncontroversial, and today it's leading every show. And he immediately apologizes, etc. He didn't apologize after 2016. Why not? Because Drew Brees hasn't changed. We've changed. The world around him has changed. And that's what's happened. Look, by 2007, the real estate crash and the Great Recession, which is very nearly a depression, things were really bad. And then, starting in 2008, for 8 years, things got progressively better. Not just economically, where they continued to get better and better and better, but socially, where marginal groups were brought in from the margins more. Don't Ask, Don't Tell fell. Before that, even, a person of color was elected president of the United States, which is a great source of pride for socially conscious Americans, let alone people of color. And things seem to be heading in the right direction. When Drew Brees made that comment, it's when Colin Kaepernick originally knelt. When things are good underneath, there's a lower tolerance for mainstream, and in this case, I mean white people, to hear protests, especially when it seems to go against the flag.